well as into Rowan County too. So again, it's this main line here that you see shaded in the dark red coloring. I'm going to track this out for you just to show you guys where kind of this is headed. You can see about 25 or so miles here toward the east. Official time frame for arrival is in about 2 minutes here from Mooresville. Again, this is the storm track. This is not a tornado track by any stretch. Landis by about 750, China Grove closer to 752. We're getting closer to Rockwell at about 8:07. Now, I've been tracking this line of storms so far this morning, and what we have seen a lot of support for as of late is a lot of support for some really strong damaging winds in excess of about 60 miles or so. Again, that's pretty much kind of the peak of what we've been seeing so far this morning, and I really haven't seen a lot of support here for rotation in this area, but nonetheless, we do officially have a tornado warning in effect here. This is for, again, portions of Iredell County, Mecklenburg County, as well as Rowan County, and this is in effect until 8 o'clock this morning, which of course is why we are breaking in to programming so far as you're kicking off your Saturday morning. Now, what do I expect to happen with this? Well, honestly, at this point, I would expect that at some point, the National Weather Service would probably cancel this unless they do start to see a little bit more of that support. I'm trying to zoom in here pretty closely to see kind of what they're seeing here. Again, I mentioned this earlier if you're just now tuning in, is that we typically look for a lot of strong rotation. With green and red kind of close together. I maybe see a little tiny bit of support for that here with this cell down toward Caldwell. But again, I mean, that would be the maximum that we're tracking out there at this current hour. So again, if you're tuning in with us just now, we are breaking in for a tornado warning that has been issued here for portions of Iredell County, Mecklenburg County, as well as portions here over Rowan County. So right now we're keeping a very close eye on this. We are of course tracking this, again, tornado warning that's currently in effect here. I'm going to zoom in again. Typically we would tell you guys, these are the cities, like this is where we're seeing the rotation, things like that. But again, I'm really not seeing a lot of support here for rotation in this cell. So of course, it's this little swath here of rain that's moving through Cornelius and Mooresville right now. That's really kind of the main driving for this to be issued. But as this continues to move eastward here, it has started to weaken here just a bit. So once again, I'm going to turn on our velocity standpoint. Again, you can see a little bit of green and red here, kind of smack dab in the middle, right about here or so. But again, I'm really not seeing a lot of support here for strong rotation. Typically, of course, the green and red are right next to each other. So you may be thinking that and thinking, Brittany, are you crazy? No, I'm not, because, this is kind of what you typically see with a really strong cold front, moving through is, of course, this is the general storm movement. So you're used to seeing these next to each other. What you look for is kind of tiny little blobs almost next to each other that are indicating kind of a separate cell that's starting to rotate. In some cases, especially out in the Midwest, things like that, you will sometimes see really rain-wrapped tornadoes and really rain-wrapped rotation. But again, at this point, I'm not really seeing a lot of support for that. As we're kicking off this Saturday morning. So just to back up a little bit, we are watching a tornado warning as well as a severe thunderstorm warning with this line moving through parts here of Mecklenburg County, Iredell County, Cabarrus, Rowan County this morning. And as the system continues to move eastward here, it is going to likely weaken upon descent. But it's this little cluster here right now that we are watching for that rotation, at least dubbed by the National Weather Service. Now, something else I do want to remind folks, of course, knowing where to be, right, in your safe place. So if you are in an apartment building and let's say you're on the second floor, you'd want to get to the first floor. Anytime you're on the lowest level of your home, that's kind of your point that you're doing something right. You want to get to the lowest level of your home. Again, so if you're in an apartment complex, you'd want to get to the first level. If you are in a two-story house, you'd want to get to the bottom level as well. If you are also in maybe, let's say, somewhere that has a basement, that's always your best bet too. And then honestly, other than that, if you are, in an area that is maybe prone to, some quick damage, things like that. Maybe you're in a home that sometimes would see damage during just a typical, gusty wind event. That would be a situation that you would likely want to, get out if possible. Of course, if you see a tornado, I am not suggesting, that you leave or anything like that. Other good reminders too is you always want to cover, your face or your head, with a blanket. That can sometimes protect from isolated debris that can sometimes move through the area. You would also want to sometimes have a helmet ready just in case. It's always a good option. And also don't forget to bring your pets with you. Oftentimes when I go to school talks, especially, the kids, will be like, oh, of course, that makes total sense. But, it seems like it makes sense now, but sometimes in that situation, it's kind of one of those things that people oftentimes forget. So make sure they, of course, if you bring them with you, are on a leash, things like that. So if you're just joining us, I'm going to kind of back up here for a second. I know that this can be a little bit frustrating sometimes, especially if you were really excited, to watch Weekend Today. I know it can be frustrating sometimes if you're like, I wanted to watch Weekend Today, and now Brittany's cutting in for a tornado warning, especially, let's say, if this isn't where you live. Unfortunately, this is something that, or unfortunately or fortunately, something that we have to do, of course, to keep people safe. So hopefully you'll bear with me this morning. Again, we do have a tornado warning that's currently in effect here for portions of Mecklenburg County, Iredell County, Cabarrus County, and Rowan County. Checking in here with kind of the area that we're talking about here. Okay, so this is the latest from the National Weather Service. It looks like, there was a little bit of rotation they were tracking earlier. It was kind of on the edge of a severe thunderstorm warning, and so they went ahead and just called it here just in case. Now, so they've continued the severe thunderstorm warning as of about a minute ago. Again, wind radar indicated wind right now is still at about 60 or so miles per hour. So really, I think wind as of this point, as we don't have any confirmation or anything like that, the gusty winds are probably going to be something that you'll notice a little bit more here. I'm going to back it up here for just a second and go back to kind of what we were tracking just a few minutes ago when they issued the warning, which has now been about 10 minutes or so. So you can see here around 7:29 in the morning. So there's Huntersville, there's Cornelius, there's up toward Lake Norman. Okay, and this is kind of the velocity factor. It looks like, based on this, a little bit of that rotation here was closer to the Davidson area. And now that we're kind of getting closer to 740 or so, there's a little bit of that rotation lingering. I think this is what they're looking at right now. It's a little bit of this green and red. I'm going to put on correlation coefficient again. If you were with us earlier, this is kind of what we were talking about, where you might sometimes see a little bit of blue shading, indicating that there could be a little bit of debris being picked up. But at this point, I'm not seeing anything in that same area. Notice that same area I was just shading is kind of right here. So there's not even that much rain right now moving through this area. So let's check in and see if we get any updates here from NWS. Noting that the reflectivity has been a little bit less aggressive. Definitely agree with that. Again, they are tracking kind of this rotation here over toward, it looks like, the Mooresville area. No confirmation of what they call ground truth officially on the ground. Which is, of course, I think something as of note is, if there's been no ground truth, that means that no one has spotted anything or anything like that and reported it to us. I do want to also point out, I know many folks are, popping on here for the tornado warning, but there also is a report here of a large tree blocking a roadway at 3000 Philadelphia Church Road in Lincolnton. A fire department is at the scene, so definitely something that could impact your morning, if you're heading out in that area. We're also seeing a tree down blocking a road at 375 Southside Church Road, also in Lincolnton. Likely a lot of this has to do with some of that heavy rain, and gusty wind activity we had moving through a little bit ago. Again, so far, Gaston County Skywarn, that some of our Skywarn, storm spotters who try to get that ground truth are working on it right now, is what I can see. No confirmation of anything so far in this area. But again, I think it's this region here in Mooresville that they're kind of watching for, again, a little bit of that weak rotation. I really still, as we're backing up here, have haven't seen a lot of strong support for a lot of strong rotation. But what oftentimes happens in actually, you know, this similar area too, especially as you get into northern Mecklenburg County, is we do have, you know, different radar sites that kind of overlap here. So we really do have to kind of look at everything in order to get a clearer picture of what's going on. Because, for example, the further away that you get from the radar site, the harder it is sometimes to locate. And so it looks like it was a little bit of this, a little bit of weak rotation about 10 minutes ago that they were watching. It's really all the support I can see. And again, that's over toward the Davidson area, and now it has continued to move eastward. And now as I kind of put it into motion here, you can see this is where it is right now. And we are starting to see it weaken and not rotate nearly as much. In the grand scheme of things, I do think this is pretty weak rotation, but that doesn't necessarily mean that a quick spin up, quick EF0 is out of the question here. Yeah, National Weather Service definitely agreeing that we are seeing a little bit of, you know, just kind of that clutter here on radar right now because of where it is in this area. So no confirmation just yet. Let's see if we have gotten any reports here. Pea-sized hail reported here in parts of Cornelius. Got a little bit of hail in Mooresville. I'm not seeing, yeah. Brad just now tweeting the same thing. It's that little bit of weak rotation just near the Mooresville area. So if you're in the path of this storm, again, I mentioned this earlier in the show, but you definitely need to be kind of keeping an eye on things, staying weather aware. It looks like we do have a picture here of kind of what's going on in Lake Norman right now, kind of getting pelted with some of that heavy rain, but you can see not a lot of rotation in that area. So I'm not necessarily worried about storms moving through there right now, as it's kind of shifted east of where that camera is. But right now, I mean, honestly, the number one thing that I'm looking at is just to kind of see, you know, where this velocity is moving and whether or not it's weakening. If this were to continue, and again, it is very weak, but if this were to continue eastward here, it would be approaching areas like Landis, China Grove. Ooh, we just got the latest radar signature in. Okay, so let's break this down for you. Back it up, back it up. Okay, so latest scan comes in. This is the rotation. I want you to kind of to make note of how kind of weak that coloring is versus just a few minutes ago when it was kind of a little bit more of this brighter orange. So we are still seeing some weakening trends here. Again, no ground truth officially yet. Something that I am watching is this little area here. See, this is kind of the same area I was just showing you a second ago. See how it's kind of picking up a little bit of that blue coloring? Now, this could be one of two things. One, it could be a little bit of debris getting picked up on Doppler radar, or it also could be just the fact that this is in kind of an area that's a little messy in terms of, you know, the reflectivity that we're seeing. What I mean by that is the coloring. So you kind of see this whole area. We see the little bit of red, but then you back it up a little bit and see how that's kind of more consistent. What is something as of note, though, is definitely this right here over toward Landis. So if you are in China Grove, Landis, definitely seeking shelter now, going into your safe place. This is eventually going to move eastward here toward Rockwell, eventually Granite Quarry there, and even into parts here of eastern Rowan counties here. So if you're just now tuning in with us, we again are tracking a tornado warning that's currently moving through the Charlotte area. This tornado warning was issued around 7:29, so it's been going on for about 29 minutes or so now, or 20 minutes or so now, as it is approaching 7:49. So what's happening right now is the storm is moving through, I would say, just east of the Mooresville area over toward Landis, and the rotation that they're watching for this storm is right about here. So again, this is just west of China Grove. Looking for some updates here. Let's see if we've gotten any reports here. So we're getting reports in Gaston County, from the Gaston Skywarn, who's working to try to see if we can get any ground truth from Mooresville. Heavy rain. No issue, no info, on a tornado, no damage that they're aware of at this time. However, it looks like there are 2 house fires going on right now in the Lake Norman area across from each other that they're feeling might have been from lightning strikes. So that's good to know. Okay, 7:27 on the dot, and it looks like we have canceled the tornado warning for Cabarrus, Iredell, and Mecklenburg County, but we are continuing this tornado warning for Rowan County. So now this is the area that we're watching. Director Jadalyn, if you can hear me, we are going to continue, of course, now that this is moving into Rowan County, but I am going to make sure that everyone is aware that we are going to continue. So canceled for Mecklenburg County as well as Cabarrus County, and also for, let's double check this so I don't get it wrong, Cabarrus, Iredell, and Mecklenburg. Continuing for Rowan. Sorry guys, this is kind of what happens, when it's a Saturday morning, right? And I'm in the weather center by myself. We got to make sure we're communicating with other folks and making sure we're communicating with you, the viewers at home. So again, we previously had a tornado warning that was issued for Mecklenburg, parts of Mecklenburg County, Iredell County, and Cabarrus County. Now this is just for Rowan County. And it's this little bit of rotation here. Let's kind of zoom into where this is because I want to make sure everybody. So this is Mill Bridge Road here in Rowan County, which is right near 152. So if you were to kind of hug 152 and take it all the way into China Grove, that would kind of be a similar path to where this rotation is moving. Now, so far, thankfully, we have been tracking this weakening a lot, as it's continued to move eastward here. But I still want everyone to just, of course, be weather aware in this area. It looks like we are getting on our graphic system. So if we want to pop this up, Jadalyn, in our double box here, it does look like on our camera 9 system, we are looking at I-85 at US 152 here in Landis. Now, as we're looking at this, again, you can see a lot of heavy rain, but I really don't see much more than that. I mean, there's no kind of rotation here on the maps or anything of that nature. So, let's see what's going on right now. Okay, don't say anything there, which I am happy about. Okay, let's back it up here. So for folks that are maybe just joining us or just trying to tune in to what's going on, we have this one isolated tornado warning that is currently moving through parts here over Rowan County. This is right near the Landis area. And so if you are in Landis, China Grove especially, since that's kind of the motion that it's moving, I want you to continue to stay in your safe place at home if possible. Again, this is for this little bit of rotation right now. We just got an update. Okay, so it's this rotation. Again, it's very, very weak, especially compared to where we were just a few minutes ago. I mean, check that out. See how we had a little bit of brighter kind of yellow shading and now it's a little bit weaker and more expansive? That is all a good sign. I mentioned this earlier. I know that this could be a little bit frustrating, especially if you guys wanted to watch today, but we do have to let, of course, our viewers at home know. That we have this potential, spinning tornado. So no update so far from the National Weather Service. It looks like they, of course, they had canceled the previous one for Cabarrus, Iredell, and Mecklenburg. This one officially is continuing through 8 o'clock. So as of now, again, just some weak rotation. Director Jadalyn, if you can hear me, James, our wonderful weather executive producer, said that we have the they want to pop up the Landis cam again, which is on graphics 20, and it will be showing a shelf cloud there. Oh, there it is on the highway. Okay, let's look at that. So this camera is right here. I'm going to put this up on the double box so you guys can kind of see at home. So this is 85 near 152. So it's kind of in this general area. Sorry, my circle was really, really weird. It kind of looks like a heart. So if you guys look here, you can see way off in the distance, we have a pretty notable shelf cloud. Now, shelf cloud, of course, is the leading edge of a thunderstorm. So a shelf cloud does not mean a tornado or anything like that, but it does mean, of course, we're seeing some strong winds that kind of pushes out those shelf clouds. It's kind of the leading edge of a thunderstorm and does indicate, of course, that we do have a lot of high winds. So even if, honestly, we don't have a tornado on the ground, this still has had, a history of showing really, really gusty winds in this area. So I just want folks, in this area to kind of be aware of that. Honestly, even in other parts of the region, this is kind of the strongest activity I think we're going to see for most of the day. We will see some scattered storms, by the second half of the afternoon, but this is kind of the bulk, I think, of really the heaviest rain with this line moving through. The front hasn't quite moved through yet. That's going to come in a little bit later on. So again, this is kind of the rotation that we're watching right now. It's this weak little area here shaded in the light orange coloring. And we're going to continue this kind of eastward movement over the next few. If you want to take a boxes full, Jadalyn, oh my gosh, you literally read my mind. I'm going to step over to the key wall for just a second because I kind of want to show folks what I'm watching. So anytime that you have active, strong to severe thunderstorms in the area, what we're watching for is, a green and red coming toward and away from the radar. This is kind of that rotation that we were watching earlier. Again, it has weakened, but if you notice, we're not seeing a lot of green and blue. That's because we're kind of at an edge here where we start to get into a different radar site. So as I show you this rotation, I don't want you to think, oh, well, you always tell me green. No, it's still a little bit of weak rotation that we can see on our Doppler wind speeds. And as it continues its eastward movement, that's why we're continuing to kind of monitor it here really quickly. You can also notice, of course, multiple lightning strikes here and also some really gusty winds with the history here of producing some strong winds in excess of 60 miles per hour. We did only have one severe thunderstorm warning earlier this morning, but I just kind of want folks to be aware of this is kind of what we're watching here. So again, 152 over toward I-85. It's kind of that intersection here that we're watching. And Jadalyn, if you want to pop up that double box again so folks can kind of see that view. Right now we have had, a history of seeing a shelf cloud in this area, but again, no official reports here, of any rotation. I don't suggest, of course, driving in the area, if you don't absolutely have to until this tornado warning is over. But as of now, we really are just watching and waiting, to see kind of when the storm starts to weaken and whether or not we get any official reports. So we do have, okay, so the National Weather Service is going to expire this tornado warning based on the fact that it is not showing what they're considering, to be really strong views. There is some weaker rotation, but as of now, they're going to issue an expiration for this. There is a report here of some damaging winds, likely causing a structural collapse in Mooresville. And I'm going to have the WCNC Charlotte team kind of work, try to see if we can find any more information on that and see if we can, help out the folks here who are dealing with that. So I'm going to currently send it back to programming. However, we actually are going to be updated on how many minutes until we would normally be up for our normal cut-in. Okay, so we're actually going to stay on just because of the fact that we normally have a cut-in that's actually at this same exact time. So I'm just going to kind of talk to you guys and kind of give you a recap here of what's happened so far as we're kind of waiting for this. So a tornado warning was previously in effect for parts of Mecklenburg, Cabarrus, Iredell, as well as Rowan counties. As of 7:55, so kind of right on the dot here, this has now been expired. We have had no official reports. I want to make that abundantly clear of any significant rotation or anything like that on the ground, but we did have, again, a previous tornado warning. So I know it's still popping up here on radar, but I do want everyone to know that that has officially been canceled. So let's take a much wider view here of what's going on. So we have still some heavy pockets of rain moving through Poplar Tent all the way down toward Willgrove, Mint Hill, Matthews area. And then we even have some heavy pockets of rain kind of on the back end of this line toward Berry Hill, all the way toward Mount Holly. I do want to make it again clear, I feel like I said this a few times earlier when we started the stream, that this is not necessarily going to be the only storm activity you'll see all day, but I do think some of it has been the strongest so far. So I know that folks who have probably been sticking with me since I came on the air about 30 minutes ago want to know, when is this going to be over? Well, let's take a look at Futurecast. So here's Futurecast radar. I'm going to do this a little bit differently, than I normally do, just because we were already on, talking about the tornado warning. But kind of as we progress throughout the morning, if you notice here by about 10 o'clock, we're seeing a lot of that heavier pockets of rain kind of moving east here of the Charlotte area. And then as we get closer to lunchtime, kind of that heaviest rain is off to our east, but then we're still seeing a few scattered storms moving over us. Remember that the scattered storms, the isolated storms, whenever we use language like that, it's normally kind of indicating the overall coverage of it. So there we are at 3 o'clock, a few lingering storms. Then if you are heading to Charlotte FC, you're pretty much good to go by the second half of the day. So we have 30 seconds left in this cut-in, and then I'm actually going to send you back to regular programming. But I just want to, again, kind of give a quick recap of what's happened so far this morning. We had a quick moving line of storms rolling through the area. We have had one severe thunderstorm warning, one tornado warning that has been canceled. I know it's still showing up on your screen, but it has been canceled as of 2 minutes ago for Rowan County. We'll continue to keep a close eye on these storms as they continue to move eastward here, but we're likely just going to see some scattered storms kind of for the rest of the day. So things will definitely get better by the afternoon, and we'll see you back here at 9 o'clock.